Don't you just love a good serial killer story? I mean, those BuzzFeed true crime videos seem to get a lot of views, so clearly there are some people out there that are fans of the trials and tribulations some of the world's most dangerous people have to face. As an invested fan of unsolved cases myself, I really do enjoy the antics and exploits of serial killers. It's a literal crime drama unfolding right in front of the public's eyes, only there's an enhanced sense of eeriness to it because it's happening in real life, despite the fact that Hollywood can't stop making real-life serial killer stories into crime dramas. Because of this, and to point out something my favorite comedian and I, George Carlin, agree on, and whose work this video is based off of, there's a part of us that hopes the perpetrator never gets caught. Isn't it just so exhilarating to never stop wondering who such a malicious actor was? To suppose the motives of someone with that kind of bloodlust, to contemplate the psyche and feelings of such a person, and wonder what it would be like to be in their shoes, or the shoes of their victim. Well, before the victims die, at least. But don't most serial killers take their victims' clothes off? Anyway, we know most homicidal maniacs don't live in the world of American Psycho where people can just get away with killing and have everyone else look the other way. Rather, serial killers actually live in the real world, and it's safe to assume most people want to curtail their killing sprees. Think of the literal and fictional antagonists these people are put up against. The state, eventual significant others of the victims, the general public. Everybody is out to get them. So for their convenience, I've compiled my personal list of tips to stay at large as long as possible to perpetuate my entertainment. A source of never-ending conflict and eternal speculation. If you've come seeking a way to gain publicity and infamy, you're watching the wrong video. We're out here for the grisliness of the crimes and how they all connect to an overarching story, rather than for the manufacture of juicy content. Here are my tips for elongating the amount of time it will take for you to be apprehended. Ensure your victims don't fit the same profile, because the investigators and civilians will be able to telegraph where you're gonna strike if your cadavers are all the same type. Kill a variety of people. Tall, short, rich, poor, middle class, male, female, young, middle-aged, old, Betty White. People won't like you for being a serial killer, but people will hate you if you're a prejudiced serial killer. But do not think of this as a sequential list. That's avoiding killing them in order, like 2 old men in a row, then to a young woman, maybe a teenage boy after that. Do both blondes, brunettes, and daywalkers/gingers. You know, the Lucky Charms leprechaun's hair color. I don't care what your parents who sexed you up when you were a child look like. We'll have a better chance of knowing who it is if all the victims look like a suspect's ex. Avoid. Do not bother with prostitutes. You shouldn't have to buy someone's services for you to be able to kill them, and other people may want that business for themselves. However, there is one rule of thumb, and you could consider this a group if you will. Do not target extremely high-profile people. A good rule of thumb is, if they're in the 1% and/or celebrity, don't even think about it. Under no circumstances kill in a radius smaller than the square mileage of an entire state. Try to vary the location where you either kill your victims or where you kidnap them, and also vary the time of day. Rural areas where there aren't that many people around are preferable for execution, but they're a double-edged sword in that the people in them all know each other, so if you're gonna interact with people in a small town, keep a low profile. The areas you should strive to do your work in are areas that already have high rates of murder in the first place, and especially where the murder rates are so high to the point where it'll take ages for the police to assign anyone to an individual's murder case. Detroit and East St. Louis, for example, are right in the middle of gang wars constantly, to the point where people can't even go outside at night due to the high risk of being shot, stabbed, robbed, diddled, beat, or just harmed in general. But a major con of these cities is that they're major metropolitan areas for the most part, and this leaves you liable to be seen by witnesses. Try your best to kill victims in different states, far, far away from each other, and never do it within the same city in a year. By now you might be starting to catch on to the fact that a lack of patterns and unpredictability are your greatest allies. When you're varying the different tactics you use for neutralizing, do it in radically different ways. Do some ordinary ones, then do ones only only a complete and total wackaloon would even think of doing. Sexual, non-sexual, ritual, non-ritual, passion, non-passion, One Piece, dismemberment, and most importantly, obfuscate any reoccurring modus operandi with which you depopulate. In different instances, use a gun, knife, bludgeon them. Hell, get a little erudite with a chemical attack or an undetectable poison. Bury some, char some, leave a few out in the open, dissolve some in corrosive chemicals. Hydrofluoric acid would be my pick because it's known to dissolve flesh with surgeon levels of precision. It even dissolves hemoglobin, no trace of anything. Do away with all witnesses and possible witnesses to your crimes. If you even think a recording camera is trained on you at a given moment, don't murder. Try to dispose of the corpses as far away from the murder sites as possible. Like if you're shooting someone, pick up shells. When you're stabbing, immediately remove any and all traces of blood off your person, weapon included. Try your best not to have an indictment, charge, or bail imposed on you by the state already. It's much harder to be a successful serial killer when the justice system is already familiar with you, because people who have been in and out of it are already going to be more heavily monitored. Try not to have a car accident, and under no circumstances whatsoever consent to any police request to search your car or place of residence at the time. Use cash for every transaction, and if it's done online, use a payment method that won't connect to your identity. And if you're willing to foot a more costly tab, do it through an escrow lender. Don't use anyone else's lodging besides your own unless it's absolutely necessary. And before you actually endeavor into any of this, make sure you can actually sleep in your car comfortably. Get out of any areas the police are active around, and never park in a mile radius of a cop. Stay on the move constantly. Try your best to have a large food supply and have mostly non-perishables because it saves you trips to grocery stores. Do not show up at the scene of your crime. Never, ever, ever. If you voluntarily do that, you deserve to get caught. Don't communicate with the police and or taunt them. It's dumb and you come off looking like a pompous, ostentatious prick who's just in it for superstar status. If you're going to do so, the only thing preventing you from being behind bars is law enforcement incompetence. Don't keep newspaper clippings of text describing your deeds. As a matter of fact, don't even read the newspaper portions associated with your previously done tasks, and don't keep any damn souvenirs from your victims. Destroy, destroy, destroy. It's not illegal to sleep in your car, but certain places don't allow you to stay overnight, especially schools. Someone is sure to call the authorities. Trucker areas off the interstate are usually safe, as are hospital parking lots. Walmart allows people to park overnight, but again, don't get in the habit of staying at specific locations. But most importantly, start watching the CSI shows on CBS and the Law and Order shows on NBC. Dexter, maybe. Eventually you'll pick up a piece of advice that could prolong your streak. Stay alive, be smart, and be safe. I'll be watching.